One of the first questions I always get asked every time I'm playing Into the Breach, how do I not suck at this game? So here we go, 6 tips to start getting you on the path of being good at Into the Breach. There's a nice tutorial, gives you the basics of the movement, the basics of the attack, and what's going on with the game. I highly recommend it. It actually gets you up to the speed with the basics of the game really quickly. We're going to go through some of the more advanced things. The first and most important tip that you could ever take with Into the Breach is controlling the Veck spawning on the board. I can't overemphasize how important it is to keep the number of Veck on the board at a minimum so you can control them, move them around, and take them out. The easiest way to do this is to sit on top of spawning points, and best if you can sit on top of spawning points while being able to still attack and defeat mech. But if I can, for example, sit on top of these spawning points, even though there's a Scion here, which on his own actually isn't doing anything, I'll actually make it so I can get through this next round without having to do a single thing. I can simply skip this next phase. But you see, I was able to easily breeze through that last mission because I controlled the number of Veck that were right there on the board with me. Another thing to note about blocking Veck spawning is that you don't have to actually do that blocking yourself. There are ways that you can position Veck in position over the spawn points so that they're actually doing the blocking. The nice thing about that is they will actually take the damage instead of you, so that you will not have to have the HP loss. As a bonus, if you can get a Veck down to 1 HP, before you put them over the spawn point, it will kill that Veck and also prevent another Veck from coming on board, really controlling your numbers. Now we're going to look at tip number 2. Now this is a very important one to look at and consider. This is probably one of the most difficult ones for people to get their hands around, but honestly will change your game if you can get this one under control, and that is to take advantage of turn order. Now if I'm looking right here, I'm trying to figure out what can I do to actually best make use of the situation. Now my first thought would be to come here, simply use my pulse mech to move one over, and now this Veck's no longer attacking, and this Veck, hooray, he's actually attacking himself, attacking one of his own kind. That's great. But then we're going to have 4 Veck on the board next time because we're going to have 2 merge points here. Fortunately, I'm blocking Veck spawning here. That's not my best move. My best move is actually to take a look at turn order and see which Veck are going to be attacking in what order. If I do that, I notice that my alpha Veck here, who does 3 damage, is actually going first. Meaning if I can come here and simply move him over, he's going to attack and take out this Veck before he can actually attack, bringing my total Veck down next time to 3. So really, really important, whenever you're faced with a situation, you're trying to do moves, start by watching which Veck are attacking first. I don't have to worry about this leaper if I move out of the way, because this alpha is going to take out that leaper before he can even attack, making it a very, very nice situation here. So we'll do that again. So there you see, turn attack order is very key, very critical to controlling the number of Veck on the board and really progressing your game. So again, they just keep setting up for more and more examples. I might be a little bit concerned about the fact that this mech is going to be attacked, but we just saw a turn order. That alpha, this alpha here really likes to set up for a good shot on its own kind. So we're going to go ahead and do that, even though I really am not going to be able to take out this Veck here. That's okay, we're on the last turn, so we'll just let them finish out. The third thing that's most important is be sure to use your mechs to actually tank damage. They have hit points. Those hit points refill every single time you go into a region. There's no reason you can't take damage, especially if you're protecting grid. In this example here, my best shot is actually to come in here to move that Veck into the water, move him off the mountain. I could go sit on top of Veck spawning. I can continue to do additional damage to this Veck, but because he's sitting here, I don't have to worry about constantly moving everybody around to get out of the way to give a clear shot or to kill someone. Use your mechs whenever possible to take damage, especially if that's going to save an objective or save grid so that you can stay alive. Tip number 4, really improving your game. This one's a little bit hard to really show you, so I'll walk through it one example here. There's actually a couple of ways I can show this to you right now in the current setup that we have. But keep in mind, you don't have to just worry about moving the Veck around. You can also move your own mechs. There's a couple reasons why you'd want to do this. One is that our mechs have very limited range. If I need to get this mech on this side of the board, he just simply can't walk there himself. You can utilize something like a hook mech to actually where his attack is meant to push and pull. Or let's say for some reason I needed to get this hook mech all the way down to this space. Now I don't know why I would need that in this instance, but I can always utilize attacks that push and then give my mech an additional movement. This can be life-saving at some point where you just can't see a solution because you just can't get around to that one other side of your of the board. That's a very critical way of doing that. But again, I want to look at how I can move my own mechs to get it so they can reach to whatever side of the board I need them to be on. Remember, you can move your own mechs in order to get them where they need to be. Tip number 5, very important one as well. It's hard to really demonstrate without showing you, just boring reading through everything, but I'll show you what to look for. It's picking the right mission. When you're going to pick a mission, make sure you spend the time looking at what the bonus objectives would be. You want to aim for that perfect island. If you get all of the objectives, including the bonus objectives like picking up time pods, you get a perfect island that gives you an additional either weapon or grid or pilot bonus at the end of completing that full island. At the end of your island, you will be able to swap out stars for actually additional grid or other weapons. You want to maximize as much as possible, getting as many of these stars as possible while still shooting for that perfect island. Anytime you see something that has actually 3, which I don't have any showing up here, that is an actual bonus objective. You'll have one more Veck showing up in that site, which will make it more difficult, but sometimes those bonus objectives are actually relatively easy to grab. The ones that can be difficult with really any mission is the kill 7 enemies, as you just don't really know what type of enemies are going to show up. Be careful if you're spending a lot of time effectively sitting on top of Veck spawning. Killing 7 enemies is an easy objective to fail because you just won't have had enough Veck showing up on the board to kill. I found another really special map to be careful of when you are on the Archive Island, and that is one that when you click into it, you'll notice landmines all over. This is a very attractive map because you think Veck can simply jump on those mines and destroy themselves. The problem with this, though, is that you will have one additional Veck spawn point per turn, making it much more difficult to control the number of Veck on the board. Now, if you like to roll the RNG dice, absolutely go for it, but this one can be particularly difficult as Veck can quickly get out of control and just overwhelm you on this board. There are 2 other types of missions that I actually really like looking for. One is specific to the RST Corporation Island, and one you can find on really any of them. And that is, one of them is the train mission, which I don't have here. The other is the one that you can only find on RST, which is called Cataclysm. The reason I like both of these is that you'll notice most turns are actually 5 turns long. This one is specifically just 4 turns long. And the nice thing about it is that you will have an increasing line of disappearing land every time. Now make sure your own mechs aren't on there other than your flying mechs. Obviously they're flying, they can be over the cap. But any other mechs, you can simply have them be pushed onto this yellow area of death and they will simply fall off. Final tip, tip number 6. This is it, guys. You're getting really good at Into the Breach by this point. I really know it for certain. The last one is, it's okay to lose grid sometimes. I know this is counterintuitive. You lose all your power grid and you go down, but there's a couple reasons why sometimes you want to be okay with losing a grid, maybe even 2. The first, obviously, is if you have to choose between a grid and a bonus and you're working on a perfect island, you're going to get bonus back by keeping that perfect island streak alive, so it's okay to lose grid there. Also, keep in mind, you do have a grid resistance. Now, I don't have much grid resistance. I have the base stock at this point. But if you have more, there is a chance that that grid itself will resist and you have rolled a good RNG die. The last reason is because, frankly, you just need to make sure you're not going to be setting yourself up for more Veck overrun later on in the game. If you're trying to defend one grid, but by doing so you're letting 2 more Veck on the board, it's not going to work out well for you. If we look at this setup right here, you know, I can take care of this Veck in the corner here by using this the terraformer here, but I need to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to try and destroy the actual Veck themselves, and I'll not worry so much about not taking a single piece of grid as a hit. Now, one thing, I'm going to actually do something I wouldn't do normally. I'm just going to go ahead, move him here, and then I'm going to do this. Now, a couple of things. If this guy wasn't on fire right now, yes, he'd be hitting the Terraformer, but you note, the Terraformer, just like your mechs, they have hit points as well. So when you're playing on easy or even normal, not a big deal. Normally you're going to be hitting for 1. You get the ability to take. It doesn't matter that they take damage, it just can't blow up. Now when you're on hard, you have more alphas. They're going to hit a little bit harder. It's sometimes a moot point. But the other piece as well is keep in mind, looking at that turn order that we talked about before, you see how fire damage happens before any regeneration in this instance. So the fact that this sounds alive will not save either of these 2 mechs. And then you have your enemy attack, and then they emerge. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this turn. You'll see how that plays out. This is putting a lot of things into practice right now. Looking at how I'm blocking Veck spawning here to control Veck on the board. I'm taking a look at turn order to make sure fire is going to go first. I'm allowing 1 grid because that's really the best play for me right now. And this, as you can see, will actually set up a really nice turn 2 with just 1 Veck on the board. Okay, I lost grid. Again, no big deal. It's just 1. I can get that back. But again, now there's not many Veck on the board at all right now, so I can do what I need to do in order to really kind of get a clean sweep of these guys. There we go. Nobody's on the board. We're controlling Veck, spawning as much as possible. So that does it for this tutorial of how to not be terrible at Into the Breach, how to actually start succeeding, winning challenges, and beating that final island. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. We got a couple more still coming in this series. We're going to go through the actual squads themselves, what to do, what to look for, what to use. We've also going to go through those weapon upgrades so you can figure out when you see a weapon, how you should use it, if it's worth actually spending money on, and getting into then the last one, speed running, which I really enjoy. So that's a completely different way of doing the game, pretty much ignoring most of the tips we've gone through today, but that's a completely different topic. We'll get there eventually, so stay tuned for those to come as well. And you can always check me out on Twitch. My link is below. I do a lot of Into the Breach and some other games as well. Hope to see you guys either here or there. Talk to you later. Bye!